All right, so this part of the segment is probably my favorite because I am a believer of this, and I think you are too. So would you believe that encouraging, obviously parents to find a coach, not only that is going to train their child, but also to lead them to be a better person?
100%.
Huge.
100%. There's no better place to really teach youth and young athletes the principles of becoming a better athlete and embracing the process of becoming the best at getting better and overcoming obstacles and
winning,
and
losing,
hard work and work ethic. And then one of my favorite quotes is from Billy Graham, and he says,
oh my God.
and he says,
I love that family.
One coach has the ability to impact more people in a year than most people do in a lifetime. And that can be a positive or a negative impact. And so really, obviously my number one goal is to make a positive impact on all the kids and the athletes that I come in contact with. But you can, as a coach, make a negative impact. And really, at the end of the day, in 40, 50 years, when the kids are done training with you and done with sports, they're going to really remember how you made them feel. They're not going to care about the wins and losses or even remember the wins and losses. I mean, the coaches that I remember are the ones that really cared about me and really invested in me and really cared about me as a person. So I think, like, to go back to your question, number one, you want to find a coach that wants to make your kid or your athlete a better person, for sure.
I think they can make or break a child, and that role model can really instill so many values also in their future of respect, understanding, patience, just so many things that are important to make you a good person.
For sure. And then going back, I mean, like you said, make or break a child. Like, it could, if they don't like their basketball coach, and that could turn them off from basketball.
Absolutely.
And then they just stop playing, even if it's something that they originally loved. So, like you said, a coach can really have a huge impact and make or break them.
So let's talk about then finding that coach, because parents always want to find the best teacher, the best coach, the best doctor, the best everything for their children. And we know there are good coaches and there are not so good coaches, and there are good teachers and not so good teachers, let's be honest. What do you recommend in terms of what parents should focus on to find that coach that will make the child, not break them?
Definitely. Number one is they need to research the coach and find out what type of person that is, and make sure that they're a person that really cares about every athlete and not just the high-level athletes. Their focus is to meet each athlete where they are and really just trying to maximize their potential. And then from a strength and conditioning perspective, trying to just researching a coach that is qualified, for sure, that because we talked about in the previous segment how difficult it is to program for the middle school and the high school level athlete, because there's so many different factors, from their birth age to their developmental level to their training age to their trust factor age to their relative movement skills. And so finding a coach that is qualified is something 100% they need. Just because somebody, where they are, is probably there's a lot of coaches that played at the pro level that were great, big, fast, strong athletes that are great strength coaches, but there's also some that were just naturally gifted with great athleticism, and they may not have a background in being able to program for the middle.
And there's a big difference there.
So that doesn't mean just because they played at the highest level doesn't mean they can train your child.
And then
sure.
You're always worried about injury, and that coach that pushes the envelope. Those are things that parents have to consider too to get involved in that moment.
100%, 100%. That's something that we do a lot with our youth athletes, is where our number one is we want to protect them, and then number two, we want them to be able to move well and have good mobility and good stability. And like we talked about in the previous segment, like a lot of parents and coaches and kids want that immediate result, and they want to be the biggest and the fastest and the strongest and jump the highest. And so sometimes trainers will get them, say, for instance, it's a basketball player. Obviously, you want them to be explosive and you want them to jump high, but they might take an 11, 12-year-old and just constantly working on force production and being able to produce force. And at the end of the day, as you have the ability to produce more force, you have to have that ability to absorb force. And if you're always extending and don't have the ability to bend and absorb that force, that's when injuries are going to occur. Injuries occur more on the landing than on the jump. And there was just a great article on ESPN.com yesterday about AAU basketball and how it's become such a year-round program. And Kobe Bryant talked about, you think of Kobe Bryant, you think of him as a guy who was just nonstop training.
Lakers, right?
Yes, like 20 years in the NBA, one of the greatest players of all time.
Really good.
His work ethic was second to none. So when you think of him, you think of somebody that was just nonstop working and nonstop training and nonstop playing AAU and year-round. And he said he really didn't start playing AAU until he was 15 years old. He was always involved in basketball, but he was really working on his skill development. And now he's got 2 teenage daughters, and so he's like, now I'm at this where AAU basketball has become crazy and year-round, and he's like, my daughters are always looking and wanting to play in these tournaments, and he's like, I got to hold them back, and that's coming from somebody who was one of the hardest workers in the NBA.
And he knows it and sees it, and he played it. What's AAU, if you don't mind telling me?
So it's Amateur Athletic Union, and so it's all-encompassing for just youth sports for basketball. Like, so they have tournaments year-round, and so basketball has really become a year-round sport. And then we all know the benefits of multi-sport athletes.
We do.
So then kids are kind of pigeonholed into playing year-round, and that can lead to injuries. And that article on ESPN was about how all of these NBA players are breaking down at tremendous rates, much more prevalent than the past. And they talked about if a kid starts playing AAU at like 8 years old and plays it through till they're 18, they have the possibility to play 1,000 games over those 10 years. So that's like the equivalent of playing 12 years in the NBA before they even get to college.
Before they even get to
NBA.
college. Can you imagine that? That's just way too much. I have a few things I want to share with our viewers, but before we do that, let's share our toll-free number in case you want to call in, 855-796-4475. We'd love to hear from you.